What's going on, guys? This is Bunny Muffins. I have a guide of how to get to Challenger using only Fortune. So one of my friends who is a Challenger player, I told him like, yo, just play Fortune every single game and see what happens. And it was a rough start at first, and he eventually was able to maintain his rank and even climb a little bit with this strategy. So we'll get into how to play Fortune, why it's good, and what type of people should play it. We'll go over all the cash outs, how to cash out, and what comps to transition to afterwards. So if you guys watched one of my previous videos about how I use Fortune in one of my games, all your questions from that video are going to be answered right here. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So first things first, there are two main compositions you want to go for when you play this comp, and that is the Slayer composition and the Mage composition. The reason why you want to use these comps and not like Keepers, not Kale, not any of the other comps, is because these two compositions do really well with a lot of items because they have multiple carries, and they also make really good use of the spatulas, Nikos, and legendary 2-stars. Like if you think of the Kale comp, like Kale's the only carry, so if you get like 10 items, you're not going to be able to make the best use of them. However, in a Slayer composition, when you have Tryndamere, Samira, and Olaf, like they're going to make such good use of like the multiple items you are going to get along with all the Nikos. So in terms of the compositions, like we have a full guide on them on my website at bunnymuffins.lol, which you guys can check out. Links are on the description below. So if you guys are new and you want to get better at TFT, go ahead, check those links out below, and also subscribe to the channel because I have a bunch of other TFT content coming out for both this set and for set 5. But first things first, let's get into the Carousel priorities. So right at the start of the game, you want to try to get a sword. Sword is going to be the best item for this composition because it fits so well into both this Mage and the Slayer composition. So if you can't get a sword, go for a glove. If not, chain, rod, then everything else. And then on the second Carousel, if you are playing the Aurelion Soul composition, go for sword first still, and then rod, glove, chain, then tier. And then if you are going into the Slayer composition, go ahead and go for sword, glove, bow, chain, then cloak. So the reason why sword is so important for both compositions is because Guardian Angel is the best item in this composition, and you could use the extra swords in the Asol comp for things like Gunblade. I'm not going to go into too much details on how to play both these compositions because we do have guides for them already, both in video and in written form. So again, I'll leave those in the description, so just check those out after this video. So in terms of how to play, you want to start the game off and just like only focus on Fortune units. Like everything else doesn't really matter because we're going to be doing what's called an open fort. And in stage 1, you kind of can play whatever. It's not really too important. You don't really buy any Chosens early game. But on stage 1-4, there's one important thing you have to do, which is what's called a pre-level. So pre-leveling is, say you are, in this specific case, you are level 3 at stage 1-4 and 0 out of 6 experience to get to level 4. So what you can do is just press level up. You spend 4 gold, but you don't actually quite level up to level 4 yet. Instead, when the next stage comes around, you will gain 2 experience because you gain 2 experience per round and then naturally level up to level 4. And what this does is it gives you an extra chance to get higher roll odds because the higher level you are, the better units you get. So this kind of gives you like an extra roll to hit things like Darius and Katarina, which we really desperately need in this composition. Another thing you could do is on stage 2-1, 2-2, or 2-3, if you have 2 out of the 3 Fortune units you need, and you already have a Darius or a Katarina, you could actually just roll right away to get Fortune units. This is a little risky because if you don't hit anything, you're going to go 8th place this game, and that's one of the risks you take when you're playing Fortune. So I can't really help you there if you don't hit. But there is a safer route you could also use, which is waiting until 2-5 to roll down, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But if you are at least 2 out of 3 Fortune with a Darius or a Katarina, you could roll down if you're only looking for Annie or Tom Kench to get a very early Fortune. If you do end up doing this, you can get a huge Fortune streak and pretty much guarantee first in a lot of cases. So no matter what you decided to do during the early parts of stage 2, on this carousel, you will most likely want to get a Fortune unit on the carousel. Hopefully it is Darius or Katarina. So typically this is pretty easy to do because since you've been open forting, you will be first pick on the carousel, so you most likely will have first dibs unless the person opposite you wants to also go Fortune as well. If you are unable to get a Fortune unit, refer back up to the item guide that I talked about before. Another thing you need to do before this carousel stage is pre-level again to level 5, depending on if you could get a clean interval, because again, we want to get an extra roll to get the more expensive units because we really need those 3 costs, which are Darius and Katarina. So after that, once you hit stage 2-5, you're level 5, roll down until you hit 3 Fortune, and this will be pretty risky. You'll have around like 5 to 7 rolls to do this because you most likely have like 10 to 20 gold during that stage. And sometimes you don't hit, sometimes you do. I played this comp 15 times and I've hit it every single time on stage 2-5 when I do this strategy. However, my friend tried it once and he rolled down, didn't hit any fortunes, and he was not able to get 3 fortune going at stage 2-5, which just means he loses because there's no coming back from that. But again, one of the risks you take when you play fortune, but I've had pretty good luck with it so far, so I do think you have a very high chance to get it. I haven't actually done the math on it, but like 15 games is a lot of games to like never miss it once. After that, you want to scout like pretty much every turn and make sure you lose to everyone because you want to start your fortune loss streak right away. So there are going to be other fortune players, there are going to be other open forters. You have to make sure you are weaker than them while still keeping fortune in. That means like if you could slam an item, but like it's not necessary to kill a unit or it'll make you win, don't slam the item because you just need to start your fortune streak ASAP in order to get a bigger payout, which hopefully will lead to a game win. Keep doing this throughout stage 3 as well. During stage 3, you will need to level up to level 6, and I recommend doing this whenever you could level up while still keeping at least 30 gold. That's typically the rule I use whenever leveling up for any type of composition, but you still want to level up when you play Fortune because you want to get the higher chances to get the 4-cost units, which are Aesol, Tryndamere, and Olaf, which are typically the 3 carries that we go for when we play this composition. So in terms of slammable items during these 2 stages, again, like, if it's going to make you beat someone, don't slam the items, but Guardian Angel and Hand of Justice are really flexible into both compositions, but it's mainly just Guardian Angel because it's just the best item for both Aesol, Olaf, and Tryndamere. But again, you can find all this information out by just scouting and making sure you're weaker than everyone else. So next up is in terms of cashing out and when to cash out. So there's a loot table made by a player called Leduc, and he pretty much found out what every single loot drop is. So by looking at this fortune table, we can conclude that you only really want to cash out if you could hit at least 6 or more loss streaks, because this is when the rewards get really juicy. So if you're on a 5 loss streak, just make sure that you guarantee lose 1 more game, and then you could try to win after that. Just note that there are like 2 troll payouts, which are the level 8 and level 9 losses. You could potentially get a bunch of Thieves Gloves, and this is the worst cash out ever. If you get those, you are going to go 8th because you have no health and you do not have the resources to come back in the game. But again, that's one of the risks you take when you play Fortune. It's a pretty low percent in all things considered because there are a lot of other scenarios. But let's go into what some of the good ones are. So the good ones for 6, 7, 8, and 9 loss streaks are the ones that give tier 5 units, the ones that give tier 4 units, the ones that give a lot of Nikos, and the ones that give a lot of spatulas. So for 6 losses, you could get 2 to 3 tier 5 units and then a bunch of gold and then some Nikos. There's another one that's 28 gold and 2 Nikos, and this is really good to get like Aesol 2 or Tryndamere 2 or Olaf 2 really quickly. And level 7, it's like kind of similar. You get 3 tier 5 units, 20 gold and 2 Nikos helps, or 5 tier 4 units, 15 gold and 2 Nikos helps. And then for 8 losses, the good ones are 5 tier 5 units, 14 gold and 2 items. If you get like a Swain or Samira, you just like get an insta 2-star right away. It's going to be GG from there. Another good one for 8 losses is 19 gold, 2 items, 1 spat, and 2 Nikos. And then for 9 losses, it's 20 gold and 5 spats. You just make a bunch of Force of Natures. 16 gold and 4 Nikos help and 4 items. It's also really good because you kind of just need to hit 2 of your carries and then just double Nico both of them. And then 8 tier 5 units plus 4 items gives you a very high chance to get a 2-star legendary just like right away. Just make sure your bench is clear when you get this reward and open the boxes slowly. Open them one at a time to make sure you don't fill your bench up too quickly. After that, all the 10 plus loss streaks are all really good, so no matter what you get, you're going to be pretty happy there. So now that we know what the rewards are, we need to know how to actually get these cash outs, because knowing them is not enough. We need to actually like earn them. So to earn them, you need to win after that large loss streak, and the best way to do that is level up to level 7 and then roll down for a strong board to win the next round. So what does this really mean? We're going to go into a lot of different examples. So typically most 3-cost 2-star units are going to be really good, such as Shyvana, Darius, Kennen, and Kindred with a good front line. That's typically going to be able to cash you out in most lobbies. and you typically cash out either late stage 3 or early stage 4. So as you're rolling down, you could get these 2-star 3-cost units and maybe get like a 1-cost 4-cost unit such as Aesol, Tryndamere, or Olaf, depending on what comp you are going for. And sometimes you could put these in at 1-star and they may cash you out as well. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples of certain boards that can do this. So one might be a Tahm Kench, Annie, and Darius frontline with a Shyvana 2 and maybe like a 1-star Aesol. Another one is with Fortune and Keepers. You use like a Kennen 2-star with GA and Jeweled Gauntlet. And with a 1-star Aatrox, that may be able to cash you out as well. Next example is with Brawlers and Assassins. You put your carries as Katarina or Shyvana, and if you get one of them 2-star, you have a very high chance of cashing out as well. Another one is going for 6 Brawlers, which you could kind of do the same thing as the one stated above. And then the last one is kind of like a Cultist Slayer mix, which might have like a level 1 Tryndamere carry. And level 1 Tryndamere carry can actually destroy a lot of teams because some teams just can't deal enough damage to burst him through the Slayer buff. So right after you cash out, you have to act very quickly. You don't have that much time in the game, and you will need to sell your whole board, sell all your Chosens, sell all the Fortunes, and like roll down to find the comp that you want. So you need to find like either like 2-star 4-cost unit or like a 2-star legendary unit, depending on what comp you are going for. And to do this, you typically need to level up to level 8. So if you do get a ton of gold, just level up to level 8 right away, since we were level 7 before. And then after that, roll it down and use the Nikos, use all the items to try to just like get your team as strong as possible. Don't think about like building the best perfect items, because you won't have enough time to figure that out and transition your team all in one turn. So just build items that seem good for your comp as best as you can, and with practice you'll get better and better at this over time. For example, like when my friend tried this strategy, he lost like 400 LP in the first day, but then a couple days later, he gained all that LP back and then like 200 or 300 more, which is absolutely insane, because once you get good at the comp, it just gets better and better the more you play it. So now let's go into some level 8 board examples. So first one we are going to go over is a Slayer build with like a bunch of random legendaries. You get like a Samira carry, Tryndamere carry, and maybe like an Olaf. Next one is an Olaf carry with Samira and some Dragon Souls. Next one is a 7 mage board with Aesol carry and Mage Swain, and then the last one is another Dragon Soul comp with like kind of similar as the one above, but without mages and more Dragon Souls with an Aesol carry. So again, like depending on whether you get ability power or attack damage items, like you go for Aesol carry or for Tryndamere carry, and then add in like Dragon Souls as you see fit if you get like a Chosen for it. So that's pretty much it for Fortune. Again, like look at the guides for Aesol and Olaf if you want more info on how to play those specific compositions, but pretty much the only counters to this are other people playing Fortune, because they could cause you to lose streak before you get the 6 lost cash outs. And like open forters are also not your friends, because they can cash you out by like not even meaning to, just because they're open forting. The last counter is yourself, because if you do not know how to act quickly during those like critical roll downs, like you will go 8th, because you will just lose 1 or 2 extra rounds that you really shouldn't have. And when you play Fortune, you're playing with like 20 to 30 life every single game. So if you just lose 1 extra round, you're at like 10 to 20 life, which like isn't that comfortable at all. So you really need to make sure that you are quick, and don't play this comp if you are a boomer. Like I am a boomer in terms of my mouse mechanics, so I try not to play this too often. I'm definitely not forcing it every game, but if I get a good start for it, I will go Fortunes. So keep in mind, although Fortune is fun, if you're actually trying to climb really hard, you don't need to go Fortune every single game. So if you see like a Chosen Cultist Elise opener, like don't go for Fortune. Just play your Cultist Elise and win the entire early game. If you don't have any Fortune units at 2-5, don't do the rolling thing. Even though you could still hit all your Fortunes, it's like a much lower chance than most of your other games. Lastly, if there are a lot of open forters and like a lot of other people playing Fortunes, and again, you just get this info by scouting, don't go for Fortunes, because your streak's gonna get griefed unless you get really lucky and you kind of grief them. It's like fighting with a lot of other people, but it's best to go like your own way and like just use what cards you are given, and don't try to like force this too much just because it worked for someone else. And that's just because the player in question, he's been challenger every single set, and he is really fast on the roll down. So just make sure that you practice this comp and be prepared to lose a little bit of LP before you start gaining more in the long run after you practice the comp. So hopefully that is enough to tell you guys about how to play Fortunes. If you do have questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, smash like. And again, this guide is on my website, the written version, so I will leave the link in the description below, along with all the other guides that we talked about before. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys later.